2020 Tour Death Holler brought us Season 3, Slash or Pass. It became the classic horror film podcast of its time. And now Death Holler brings us the most shocking season ever.
10 more parts.
Season 4, Dead or Dead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Imagine, if you will, that one of the hosts is absolutely terrified of zombies.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head, that seems to work out.
Now, accept the fact there is no escaping this horror. Death Holler brings back the dead. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is advised. With hospitality like this, you'll never want to leave. We hope you stay alive.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Death. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Llareyna, and we actually have a special guest this episode. It is Daphney. Hello, Daphney.
Hello, guys. How are you today?
We're feeling like we're zombies at the moment due to the time, but I mean, here we are.
Oh yeah, all of us are feeling it right now, which is hilarious. But I have a feeling the Reverend is he's worried. With two, I feel like maybe he feels like two women are going to be pitted against him in this. Who knows?
I think this is the perfect episode for this movie.
I do too.
Yeah, a lone guy dealing with two women that are out to basically neuter him and keep him
use
locked
him
up forever.
Use him for their nefarious plans.
Yeah, it's some men's dream,
Yeah, well, maybe, I guess.
Some's nightmares.
Movie we're
apparently.
talking about is Death Becomes Her from 1992. Tagline: some people will go to any lengths to stay young forever, but Madeline Ashton and her old friend Helen Sharp are about to go too far.
I mean, is there such thing?
That tagline went a little too far, if you ask me. But
It was a little bit long. It was a little TLDR,
I don't know why they don't understand this. It needs to be one sentence max, and it needs to have punch to it. Like, some of these are really good, and some of them are like, "What are you doing?"
Are there any other quotes or not quotes, but taglines?
Yeah, there's a few more, but they're really bad.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Directed by Robert Zemeckis. Never heard of this guy who directed my favorite trilogy of all time, Back to the Future. So, written by Martin Donovan and David Keep. Music by Alan Silvestri. Never heard of him either, since he did music for Back to the Future. But hey, I mean, you got to get some of these no-name guys every once in a while.
Yeah, they got to start somewhere.
Made for a budget of $55 million US. It made $149 million, so did pretty well.
I'm sorry, but isn't that similar to Warm Bodies?
Maybe.
I mean, it's not exact, for sure, but I'm going to look it up, but I am pretty sure that Warm Bodies was like something like that.
30, 35, and 117.
Okay, yeah.
Was what Warm Bodies did, so pretty close.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you what, there's movies these days that don't get numbers like that.
Oh yeah, big budget movies. I wonder what she could be talking about.
I have no idea. Movies that are made for the box office, or actually the box office that these movies made is only a fraction of the cost of these new movies, and they barely make more than that.
Yep.
They do.
You could say they're anything but marvelous. Oh, that was terrible. I'll go home now.
And they should be yoked into a galaxy far, far away.
Oh, that hurts. It hurts so bad.
Anyways, principal players. We have Meryl Streep playing Madeline Ashton, the movie star, diva, and homewrecker in this movie. Meryl Streep, never heard of her. It's not like she's been nominated 50 bajillion times for
All
it
the
Emmys, Oscars, probably a Grammy or two. I don't know if she sings in any of her movies, but I'm sure.
Mamma Mia. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's true. Only Murders in the Building, this very last season of that, which, by the way, Only Murders in the Building is a damn good show on Hulu. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. Mamma Mia in the sequel, as you said. I keep forgetting about her being in that, although those movies are pretty decent for what they are.
Yeah.
The Devil Wears Prada, which I've never watched and don't plan to. Never watched the Bridges of Madison County either. Don't plan on it.
Let me tell you this about the Bridges of Madison County. I have a category of movies that I call "They are so good I will never watch them again," and Bridges of Madison County is on that list.
Wow.
It is so good, but it is so good I can never ever watch it again.
Now, is it good in the sense that, I mean, it just being an overall good movie and you don't want to ruin it, or is it good in the sense that it's like a real, like, emotional movie and you don't want to relive it?
Both.
Oh,
okay.
Like, it is amazing.
I think A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga was that for me.
Yeah.
I ugly cried so bad I won't watch it again.
I wouldn't say that I ugly cried during Star Is Born, but I will say that it's one of those movies that I think it's great, and I even bought it. And now, and when I look at it, I'm like, I just don't think I'll ever be in the mood to watch that, just because it's not. I mean,
I'm kind of there too.
Perfect, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophie's Choice.
Never
she
heard
was
of
in
that.
Kramer versus Kramer, The Deer Hunter, which has Christopher Walken in it. And Nightmare on Elm Street 2. No, that's a joke. We had knockoff Meryl Streep in that movie.
Oh my God. Yes. Okay. I have to point out, because I can't believe it's not on here, and I don't know if y'all have seen it, but definitely let me know if you have. Have any of you guys seen She Devil?
Oh, yes.
I love that movie. She was amazing.
She Devil?
She Devil. It's with
Roseanne was
Barr.
the main character in that one.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think I might have, but it's been so long.
Oh, it's been that movie's from like 1989 or something.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, was Meryl Streep in that?
Yes, she was. She kind of played a similar character. She stole a woman's man. Go figure.
Yes, it's the same
right.
exact character. Yeah,
Yeah.
she does.
She's an author in this book though, and oh my God, I love that movie. I will watch that movie over and over.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times and I completely forgot, but yeah, she's definitely in it, and she's I mean, the same setup even. It's, you know, this homely looking woman with a man, you know, and meets this woman who's you know, an up and comer in her profession, be it like a, you know, in this case like a theater diva versus, you know, a book writer, but still it's the same setup.
Yeah.
We have Goldie Hawn in this, playing Helen Sharp, novelist. Funny that we just talked about somebody being a novelist. Scorned woman and mentally deranged. She does.
I'm just kidding.
No, she doesn't sit there for 12 years, you know, plotting her revenge against this woman.
No. Let's back it up a little bit. She's so deranged over Madeline that she literally has a Madeline test for all of the guys that she dates.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It's like, okay, I want to see if the guy that I'm with will be faithful to me. So I know that this woman who has repeatedly stole every man that I've ever had, I'm gonna bring them. I'm gonna bring the guys to her and just see if they
this
can.
Famous movie star,
yeah,
gorgeous and beautiful and super rich. You know.
No.
Well, and here's the other thing too that's super duper deranged about it. Not to get into the movie already, but he would never have met her if it hadn't have been for Helen.
That is true.
No. He would have had, because he had no interest in any of that stuff. Like,
No.
I mean, it wasn't even on his radar.
Yeah, she could have just removed herself from, Helen's life, or Madeline's life, excuse me. And
Never would have had a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit.
Bringing in some real life into this really quick. Goldie Hawn had tried to tap into the fountain of youth like she did in this movie and in real life, and it did not work for her in real life.
See, I haven't seen any pictures of her lately.
Well, she was in the Christmas Chronicles.
Christmas Chronicles 2. Well, actually, she was at the end of 1.
Okay.
But like,
I saw those movies. I didn't think it was terrible.
I think she just, especially versus Kurt Russell. I mean, the man is aged perfectly.
Yeah.
But
that's not fair. Guys
do that.
Yeah.
Well, some do. I mean,
yeah.
Let's compare to the old man at the beginning of Night of the Living Dead, the remake, the one that's like, I'm sorry. That guy did not age like Kurt Russell. He aged like milk.
Oh, okay. Y'all have seen First Wives Club?
No,
I've not watched all of it.
Okay. Well, what's funny is that Goldie Hawn, it's the First Wives Club is basically where the scorned ex-wives, they're the first wives of rich men. They kind of build a club up because their men left them for younger women, basically. But in the movie, Goldie Hawn Hawn's character, she gets plastic surgery and she tries to deny it, but you could totally tell her face looks just pulled back and her lips are super big.
That's funny.
And she basically looks like she does at the end of Christmas Chronicles. So basically it was the future. God. Like she was foretelling the future.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. So yes, while it didn't look terrible, you can definitely tell.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate for her. I mean, like, it's like the Courtney Cox effect. It's
yeah.
What did you do to yourself? Like, seriously, stop. I mean, it's not helping. Of course, we mentioned the Christmas Chronicles that Goldie Hawn was in. Overboard,
love
very
that movie.
popular movie.
Classic.
First Wives Club, The Banger Sisters, which I find is hilarious as a name. But,
yeah.
Bird on a Wire, and Private Benjamin. And she's got a few more, but I was surprised. I was like, I thought that she was in more like major movies, but like looking at her list on IMDb, like she's not really been in a ton.
Wow.
Like standout stuff,
Hey, but the ones that she was in were just like instant classics and everybody knows and loves.
That is
That's
true.
true.
She's very picky about her movies and good for her.
We have Bruce Willis, never heard of him, playing Ernest Menville, the plastic surgeon turned Undertaker, and basically cucked husband over the course of a movie.
So I got to tell you this also. I have actually found a movie that Leo had never seen before, which is hard to do. And so we're watching this movie and he's like, no, I think I've seen this. And he's like, no, I've absolutely not seen this. Right. And then at about 10 or 12 minutes in, after the first 7-year time jump.
Oh, Looper.
Right. He said, is that Bruce Willis? And I was like, yes. I was like, this is when he still had hair. And he was like, was that Bruce Willis at the beginning? And I was like, yes, babe, this has been Bruce Willis the whole time. And he wanted to back it up because he didn't believe me. And I wouldn't let him. And so he got on IMDb and he was like, well, son of a bitch, it's Bruce Willis the whole time.
To be fair, he does have on a hairpiece through the first part of the movie before he becomes like, the more bald like he was in real life version later on.
I still thought it was hilarious that he didn't recognize him.
Well, he's playing against type in this movie too, because he spent so many years as like an action hero, and now in this one he's like more of just like a nebbish, like intellectual type, so it's not really the same character that he's normally seen as. Obviously known for the Die Hard films, Looper, Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, which we've covered, Sin City and the sequel, both great movies. Red and the sequel. Have you all saw the movie Red? Or
Yes, I love it.
No.
John Malkovich is in those movies, as I've said before. So kind of funny that we, have the connection there.
And Helen Mirren too.
Yes, and
If
she's
you ever want to see, Helen Mirren as an action star,
oh shit,
you need to watch this movie. It's
Okay.
great.
And it's so weird because she's gorgeous, even though she's a much older woman. It's you talk about. I don't know what fountain of youth she found, but her plastic surgeon should get paid extra.
I think we know what fountain of youth she found.
Planet Terror, which we will be covering at some point this season. So Bruce will be back in another zombie movie. The Whole Nine Yards and its sequel, which
I love those movies.
Actually led to him being on Friends because he made a bet apparently with Matthew Perry and had to go do a few scenes or a few episodes of Friends after that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Armageddon, Fifth Element, 12 Monkeys, Pulp Fiction, Hudson Hawk, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I actually enjoy that movie. It's fun, even though it is stupid. And then Moonlighting, which is where he got his big break, actually.
Yeah, that's so fucking old, Moonlighting. I remember that when I was a kid. I didn't watch it, but it was like on TV. But
yeah,
real quick, did Bruce Willis give Ned Flanders to you guys in this movie?
Kind of.
My God.
He was giving Ned Flanders to me.
That's amazing. That stupid mustache.
Mm-hmm.
The mustache, and then his just constant his facial expression is always one of terror, a surprise throughout the whole
All
movie.
we needed was a womanly scream
or
out of
just
him.
Bland.
Yeah.
It's sad what he's going through in real life,
Yeah.
though, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some kind of weird dementia that's really early, and he can't, and a lot of people are giving him shit because he was making these direct to Redbox movies where he had a lot of earpieces in where they were basically feeding him his lines, but he had to because he couldn't remember them anymore,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
awful. Isabella Rossellini. Is it Liesel? Is that how they say her name in the movie?
I thought.
Lyle, whatever. Von Ruman, who's the gothic potion maker. You talk about somebody who aged like milk. I feel like Isabella Rossellini is like that. She is gorgeous in this and Blue Velvet, and then you see pictures of her after, and oh my God, totally different person. I don't know what happened to her, but
Yeah. She was just too gorgeous.
Well, she was 71 in this film, so it just goes to
that's true.
She
She
didn't
had a
have
few
much
more
time.
years on her after this.
Well, obviously Ernest passed, so no one was there to spray paint her ass,
But she didn't need it because she hadn't been killed. So her body was still fine.
Something happened. We didn't see
Yep.
it.
She's actually in the Incredibles movie, does a voice in that.
Wow.
So, I mean, Goosebumps, Escape from Horrorland, which is a video game, and then Wyatt Earp. She was in that movie as well with Kevin Costner, which is not the version of Wyatt Earp that I prefer. I prefer Kurt Russell's version, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Adam Stork plays Dakota, Madeline's side piece, or is she the side piece? As we find later on, he's got a much better, younger looking woman that he's been tapping, and she thinks she's his main thing. He was in the movie Mystic Pizza, which I can't remember. It's either got Cher or it's got Julia Roberts. I can't remember.
Roberts.
I knew it was one of the two. And then William Frankfather, I had to put this in here because of his name. This is the actor's real last name is Frankfather, played Mr. Franklin in the movie. And then get this, Clement von Frankenstein. Frankenstein plays the opening man. He's the guy at the beginning who's bitching about Madeline's terrible acting in the play or whatever. I seriously think they whenever they were just going through actors for extras, they were like, wait, you guys have names similar to Frankenstein. This movie's got some of that going on. You're hired. I don't care if you can act.
It has to be. What the hell?
So, I actually noticed. I don't think she's credited, but I would almost bet money that in the crazy, not crazy house. What? When they're at their group therapy session.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kitty, the mom from that 70s show, is one of the ladies in that group session.
I'll let Llareyna look and see if she
Yeah.
can find evidence.
I don't know if she's credited, but that was the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I was like, oh shit, that's the mom from that 70s show.
I believe
Ever since
I was gonna say I believe Tracy Ullman was actually in this movie, but they cut her out.
Oh,
she
yeah,
had
they did.
And there was somebody else too in the scene where they were all walking out, or random people were walking out at the very beginning of the movie being like, oh, this is trash, blah, blah, blah. There was another lady that I recognized too, that I was like, shit, I know her too. So part of the time as I was watching this movie was me just like scanning the background characters being like, do I know them? There were so many of them.
Daphney is right. Deborah Jo
Whoop,
Roop.
whoop.
Yep, she is credited as a psychiatric patient.
Nice.
Well, there you go. I was paying more attention to Goldie Hawn in that scene because she's just like, she goes out there with that character during that scene. Like, I mean, like she did a very good job as far as like the comedic aspects during all that. Like when she's, everybody else is like, they're tired of hearing her story. They're like, oh, let me speak about Madeline Ashton. Everybody's like, fuck this, let me kill her.
Yeah, another thing was Leo was so funny during this movie because the scene of her in her cat apartment.
Oh yeah.
He was like, is that Goldie Hawn? I was like, yes, babe, that's Goldie. He's like, no. I was like, it's Goldie Hawn, I promise you. He's just
He doesn't believe.
floored. No.
Fat suit. She looks really dumb.
That's not really her ass, but that is Goldie Hawn.
Right.
Just the way that she ate that ice cream and it just dribbled off of her triple chins.
I thought she was eating frosting for some reason.
Oh, yeah, it was frosting. I'm sorry, it was. It was
Okay.
even worse.
I thought it was cat food at first too, because when she opened that cabinet,
Oh
and all
yeah.
you saw was cat food, and then she opened it up and just dipped her fingers in it. I was like, "You crazy motherfucker!"
Blech.
If she'd have died in that apartment, those cats would have ate her. You right? I mean,
100%.
They would have lived a while.
It would have happened. They would have been there for a while, but they would have cleaned the bones.
What does it take, like a day or something? Like within like somewhere between 24 and 72 hours, they're eating you.
Yes.
You're thinking of pigs.
No, cats. I am 100% talking about cats. Pigs will eat you a lot
cats
faster,
go
won't they?
feral really quick.
No, the pigs
and-
will make your body disappear in 72 hours, but the
That's true.
cats will start within that amount of time.
Well, and here's what's funny though, is then it would be cyclical, right? Because she's so fat, the cats would eat them. They would get fat. They'd start eating each other. It would just be terrible.
Ugh.
Mass chaos.
Yes.
Synopsis for this movie. After having her fiance stolen by her frenemy, Helen Sharp spends years wallowing in pity and anger until finally deciding that revenge is her only solution. Her rival, Madeline Ashton, is desperately trying to hold on to an ever-fading youth while she drifts through a loveless marriage. A mysterious woman offers Madeline the chance at eternal youth, but with a hefty price. Is immortality worth it if you're trapped in a decaying corpse? Will Dr. Menville escape the two harpies that are ruining his life? Madeline's neck is twisted, Helen's guts are missing, and Ernest is dying to get away from the whole thing. Literally dying.
So should we change this from Dr. Death to Dr. Menville just for this episode?
Get me out of here.
And we'll be the two harpies.
Yeah.
Here's the other taglines, just so you know. From the director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future.
No.
Okay.
Shut up. That was an actual tagline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they slapped it on stuff to get more, drive to the cinema, I guess. This one's awful. Your basic black comedy. I mean, it is, but
they could have went with dark. They went with black.
Can you imagine, okay, guys, pitch me your advertising for this movie, and some guy's sitting there, and he's either had a shitty day or a lack of sleep, and he's like, It's your basic black comedy. And they're like,
no, it's because it's a movie star. Instead of saying your basic black dress, it's your basic black comedy.
That's I agree with you that could have been what they're saying, but like that
still a thumbs down.
Yes. And then this one is another too long didn't read. In one small bottle, the fountain of youth, the secret of eternal life, the power of an ancient potion. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What the fuck? Like
if they had just taken the first sentence and the last sentence, that would have been great. In one small bottle, the fountain of youth. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, but even with that, in one small bottle, the fountain of youth, fine, good. At the end of it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, that says nothing. What they should have put is, it works, but it comes with a price or something like that.
And you know what? So the girl, God, I can't remember her name. The witchy lady,
Lyle or whatever her name is. Yeah. She
actually says a great line where she says, "You'll be married to your body."
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been a real good one. Or siempre vida, live forever.
Do you think her name was Lyle in that sense for something like Belial, like kind of a demonic like connection or something?
Okay. Yeah. So I noticed during the movie that when Helen and Madeline talked to each other, it was mad and hell.
Yes.
Right? So I kept trying to make something out of Lyle's name. And I think they were trying to, but I never could quite get it to work.
No, it's in the, I've got it in the trivia. I think it's, if you combine their names and Ernest's names, it's Mad in hell or something like that is what it ends up spelling. I'll get to it, but it's something along that sense. It was just like a joke, taking their first names and like doing all that with it.
Okay.
Mad and then and hell. So like it or something like that.
Matter and hell. Okay.
Yeah. Quotes in the movie. Ernest Menville, where did you put my wife? And then the second doctor, she's dead, sir. They took her to the morgue. And then Ernest, the morgue, she'll be furious.
I actually laughed out loud at that line.
Madeline Ashton, wrinkled little star. Hope they never see the scars.
Fucking love it.
That was great. And isn't that her first line? Like other than the singing?
I want to no. I thought it was like after it skipped ahead, and it was like the first time you see her, she's looking in a mirror and she's saying that. Maybe I'm wrong, but
that's what I'm saying. It was like the singing stuff, and then they went to her dressing room.
Oh yeah.
So, it was either there or after she'd been married. It was one of the two, but it was the first time you saw her either way. Like I mean, before and after. We have Lyle von Rumen saying, "This is life's ultimate cruelty. It offers us a taste of youth and vitality, and then it makes us witness our own decay."
That's so fucking true.
Madeline, could you just not breathe when she's speaking to Ernest?
I was with her in this scene because I was like, dude, blow your nose or see a nose doctor or something. This was terrible. It was like he was snoring while he was still awake.
Oh my God. Which is funny because when we cover Life After Beth, there's a scene where he says something to Aubrey Plaza, and it's kind of similar to that, but I think it was kind of, or in response to her, it was kind of funny.
Oh my God.
Talking about her smell, because she's a corpse at that point. Madeline Ashton, you're a fraud, Helen. You're a walking lie, and I could see right through you. And then they watch through the hole while they're laughing.
Look, Madeline's laugh at this point was just total and utter glee.
Yeah, it was chaos. It was demonic. It was awesome.
These women had way too much fun with this movie.
Yeah.
I think everybody involved had a lot of fun. I mean, even like Bruce Willis, even though he's acting like he's not, I mean, he gets into the spirit of the movie. He contributes to it.
He had to have been like watching this and holding in laughter sometimes because
Ernest Menville, till death do us part. Well, you girls are dead and I'm parting. And then Helen, she was a homebreaker, she was a man eater, and she was a bad actress. Emergency room doctor. I tell you what, kids, it's a odd thing here. Your wrist, as far as I can tell, is fractured in 3 places, and you're shattered 2 vertebrae. Although I can't be certain with an X-ray. The bone protrusion through the skin. That's not a good sign. Your body temperature's below 80, and your heart stopped beating. And then Ernest is like, "What the hell does that mean?" And the doctor's like, "Exactly. What? I'm going to go get a second opinion."
I got to tell you, this was probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole damn movie because at one point he like puts a pill in his mouth.
Yeah.
And
do you know what the
because
pill was?
Yes, because my mother-in-law had some heart issues, so she takes the nitrous or whatever. So as soon as he did that, I was like, oh my God, he's
having a heart attack.
He's about to have a heart attack. Yeah.
And whenever, and here's the thing that I didn't realize. I mean, it's awesome that you picked this up. I had to actually look it up in the trivia. When Ernest or Bruce Willis leaves the office and he's trying to find somebody to help her,
he's the one they're working on.
He's the one that they're all working on. The one that they're yelling a code for is the doctor because he's dying of a heart attack now.
Yep.
And that's why they can't find a doctor is because all the doctors are like, oh shit, one of ours is dying. I thought that was so good.
I love the scene just because, like, I mean, obviously it's played for comedy, but at the same time, the creepiness of it. Because the doctor, I mean, the underlying creepiness, the doctor's like, she's dead. Like, I mean, I'm speaking to a corpse that's living. Like, I'm done. Like, that's where he's at with it, and that's perfect, you know.
Well, and I don't know who the guy is, but I talked about him playing it perfectly.
Oh yeah.
So he walks into this emergency room. There's this chick sitting there, husband, whatever, and he starts off really kind of boring. Okay, well, how you guys doing? What seems to be the problem here? And then slowly he turns into. In like 3 minutes, he's having a heart attack. So he goes from bored off his tits to having a heart attack in like 3 minutes. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a really well done scene. And I mean, kudos to everybody involved, the way he acted it, the way they directed it. I mean, the script writing for it, it was perfect.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the average emergency room doesn't really see a real emergency. I mean, from friends I had that were nurses in the emergency room, people are going in for fucking colds.
Right.
And it's like, you don't have a doctor. You can't go. There's literally urgent care, walk-in care, things like that now. I know those didn't exist in the past, but they exist now. And they're like, this is for emergencies. So I feel like in an emergency room, you're either going to be bored from the type of patients you're seeing because it's not really an emergency, or you're going to be bored from no patients if they were actually going to places like urgent care and walk-in care. So
right.
It makes sense that a doctor would be bored because it's like, here we go, another fucking, day.
Stomach bug,
What's bothering you today?
Yeah, I mean, well, in a lot of cases, especially around here, they see a lot of stuff that they shouldn't even see just because Medicaid will pay for it, you know.
God.
So they'll say, I mean, I've literally seen ER doctors write children's ibuprofen liquid and Tylenol liquid for these kids just because they have a fever. And it's like, it's an over-the-counter fucking item. Like, why did you waste valuable hospital resources for this, to
get it covered under insurance? Probably
that's exactly what it is. Exactly. I mean, and nobody else was open, or that was just because it doesn't cost them, that's where they go. I mean,
right.
It's and so people who are actually having real issues, heart attacks, bleeding, whatever, they're being, I mean, obviously they triage this stuff, but still their care is like being delayed because of these stupid things,
Right. So another thing about this scene, 2 things. One, real quick, is I absolutely loved the old school thermometer in her mouth.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see that shit anymore.
No.
And then
full of mercury.
What?
Said full of mercury.
Oh, I know, right? And so, but then 2, I think the real change in the scene comes when he's looking at her wrist, and it took me until like the 3rd or 4th time he was like, are you sure this doesn't hurt, for me to realize he's literally bending her hand way too far, and her going, no, it's fine, I don't feel anything, and so I just thought it was funny that even when I was looking for stuff, it took me like 3 or 4 times of him going, are you sure, before I really caught it, and then it went downhill from there.
She's like,
Well,
it
and also
doesn't
he has-
hurt.
Well, and also in that scene, he's holding her hand so he can feel the bones like actually
Yeah.
moving underneath the skin.
Oh, gross.
And then finally, we have Madeline Ashton. Ernest, my ass. I can see my ass. And then Ernest was like, and there's something really wrong with your neck, too.
I love all these lines.
Yeah, I love how, like, I mean, instead of him, like, that's the best part about this. Is that, I mean, he's obviously freaked out, but he's not freaked out as much as he should be. Like, anybody else would be speechless. They'd be like booking it for the door. But like, he's just like, okay, I'm freaked out, but like, I'm still going to respond in just like a slightly perturbed manner, you know?
Well, and it's like he's the only one that's trying to hold on to his sanity by pointing out the obvious.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Something that a lot of people might not realize is that this was actually Zemeckis was highly involved in making the Tales from the Crypt HBO series at the time that this was going on, or this movie was made. This movie, some people have argued, was a script that they got for the show, and then they just made a movie out of it instead. So I mean, if it's got a vibe like it could have been on the Tales from the Crypt TV series, that's because it probably should have been, and they just expanded it out and made a movie out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That really is.
But they made a comedy, a horror comedy, not even a horror comedy. Is this a horror comedy?
I would count it as a horror comedy.
Yeah. So it would have fit what they did on the show. Like, it's in the same, like, the type of humor they did in the show. Like,
that's
it fit that. So getting into the movie, visually, the movie still fucking stands up.
Yes.
Even with, I mean, the scenes that stand up the most are the ones, like, I mean, especially when Goldie Hawn stands up and you can see straight through her. I mean, they use CGI in those scenes, but it looks good because it's minimal use.
And it's from the 90s.
See, and that's what I was thinking too when I saw that scene, because I saw this like a million years ago. So I was wondering, like, how would it stand up? So, I mean, it was in the 90s, and obviously, besides there's not a hole in the middle of Goldie Hawn, you could see the CGI. You know how you can see that there's CGI done. However, was fucking amazing. There are movies now that you can still see the CGI, and they aren't as intricate as what that, because not only did you had to have the hole, but you had to be able to see through her and into the background. And they played with that a couple of times, obviously, because you know the greenery and stuff like that when she steps out of the pool. But then to have Meryl Streep lean over and have the camera shot through Goldie Hawn and see Meryl Streep's face, fucking amazing.
The stick coming through when she's sitting on the couch.
Yes, I about lost my shit when that happened. I was like, no, she's not gonna do that, and then it did, and I was like,
dude, they put so much detail. I mean, I think visually with everything that they did, colors, they were very vibrant about specific colors. They, you know, obviously the color, having Goldie Hawn's eyes pretty much go dead. I think eventually, because she's Madeline, one of them's Madeline, one of them's Helen. I don't know, one of them. Matt or Hell. I think eventually the other's eyes start to go pale as well.
The only reason that Madeline's eyes were not like pale like Goldie Hawn's is because if you remember, Ernest, whenever he's spray painting her ass, he colors her eyes with a paintbrush.
Yeah, you know? And he tells her, he was like, hold very still, and she moves, and he was like, oh, now it's gonna be odd. Do you want people to stare? And so then when Goldie Hawn dies and her eyes immediately change, I was like, oh, that's motherfucking awesome.
Yeah, they were so specific about certain details, everything. Now I want to know, how did they make them look so much younger? These women were already younger at the time, obviously. They weren't super old, so did they make them look older in certain scenes or what?
I think they probably did. I think it was probably because of it being in the 90s, they probably used, and this is just my opinion, I don't know, they probably used makeup badly to age them. And then when they went through their transformation, they basically just did perfect makeup on them.
Yeah.
As they really are.
Okay.
There was a lot of makeup effects in this movie, and I want to say that the aged look. I mean, one of the easy ways they got it was to kind of cake the makeup on as they were like is the older versions of like especially Madeline, to where it like accentuated any like crow's feet, and then whenever they took that away and it didn't stand out as much, so it looked like she was de-aged or whatever. You know, so
yeah,
I love it.
The only thing I would say about the CGI and the aging is they used the same exact like overlay on their hands. Because when Madeline, when she does the witchy lady does the thing with her hand, right? And like it was gross. It was like green, splotchy. She looked like she was decaying already, but she obviously wasn't supposed to be. That was just supposed to show like age spots and everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But when she did it to Ernest, it was the same exact fucking overlay. Like the splotches and everything looked the same.
Exactly. I noticed that too. I was like, oh, that's weird. I'd never seen that. But I was like, why are his Dalmatian spots exactly the same?
The scenes where her head is on backwards and like she's walking around, I mean, are very well done as well. I mean,
I don't know how they
done.
did. I don't know. I mean, like CGI, obviously, but it was so good.
That one was practical, I think. I didn't really notice any CGI much.
No, her neck was definitely CGI.
Okay.
I think what they did was they filmed it with her walking forward, and they filmed it with her walking backwards, and they like stuck her head on backwards, because where the head met the body, the neck was definitely CGI. However, I will say my favorite part of that, and you want to talk about practical effects and really selling it so that it's hard to tell, is and this would happen, she forgets she's walking backwards and she goes to sit down, but she sits on her butt on the floor, because that's like, you could tell she's trying to sit on the piano bench, but she's backwards, and so she just sits on the floor. I was like, damn it, there were so many times I was like, somebody fucking paid attention.
Now that I think about that, I mean, I've obviously seen it. I obviously noticed that. It's just so funny how she just gives up and she's just like, okay, I'll just do this. And it's like, bitch, do you know what's happening right now? Like, I actually expected her to make a comment about how good her ass looked whenever she's like, had turned around backwards, and she's like, my ass, I can see my ass. And doesn't it look great? Yeah. Like, that's what I was expecting her to say.
That would have made sense. The other thing about the makeup that I really liked was whenever they had the peeling effect, which made them look even creepier, like their skin was peeling off, even though it was, the makeup that was spray painted on.
Yeah.
That was gross.
Oh, they did so good with that though.
And then the other part about the visuals that stands out is just the camera swoops and all that, because there's a lot of angles in the movie where they they do like this wild, something you'd expect to see on Tales from the Crypt, where they zoom the camera in at like some odd angle on like Bruce Willis's face as he's got that panicked look. It's like it's not the traditional like camera shot. It like zooms in and it's kind of cockeyed to, I guess, visually represent that like his whole world is tilted now, because like he's seeing like this dead body that's, came back to life. And there was a lot of scenes like that in the movie as well.
Well, in one time, oh God, I can't remember what exactly was going on. I think it was right after he realized that Madeline wasn't dead. Anyway, it's a shot from the bottom up, right? So he's up over the camera, and of course there's a freaking thunderstorm going on through like half of this movie.
Yeah.
And so you get the skylight and the thunder crash and the lightning flash, and he says it's alive, and I was like, Frankenstein.
Oh yeah. It's a miracle.
There's a lot of throwbacks to like gothic, movies or whatever, and especially in the part you're talking about, it's toward the end of the movie where he's trying to escape from Lyle and the rest of the ghouls. Which, speaking of that, did you all? I didn't notice this until I saw the trivia. Everybody that was at that party was like a famous dead celebrity.
Okay,
I knew
so
them.
that's where my keen eye came in, because I was like, is that? I think I saw not Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
I mean, they made a point of Elvis, but there were a couple of people that I was like, is that supposed to be a famous person? Is that supposed to be a famous person?
James Dean is in the scene.
Yes.
There's a scene where Elvis is talking and somebody has throwaway line about he's he's going on again, basically hinting that Elvis is exposed himself to the public too much.
It was the guy at the microphone. He was like, just a reminder, you guys need to stay hidden.
Yeah.
Not saying who you are. And then the crowd parts and he was like,
Yeah, because everybody keeps saying that Elvis was alive. They saw him, and it's because he's been out in public too much,
Oh my God. They had Jim Morrison. He was at the pool.
He was there.
Mm-hmm. He was at the pool with the hot chick. Are you almost
done?
done?
Is that who that was supposed to be?
That was Jim Morrison. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the story, it's basically, it's a good fit for Tales from the Crypt because it's the kind of story you can imagine being in EC Comics. It's like the traditional, this is your, potion that's going to keep you alive forever. But if you die, your body will rot and you'll have to live in that body forever, regardless of what happens.
Yep. God.
And looking at the movie, I could forgive a lot of people thinking, oh, okay, seeing the cover and seeing Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep, even with the one cover where I think Bruce Willis has his arm through Goldie Hawn's stomach and then he's got the candelabra, or whatever. You see it and you're like, okay, this is some kind of romantic movie or something like that, some chick flick. But there might be elements of that in the movie, but there is a lot of gothic horror in this movie that. They build into it.
I'm glad you said that because Leo, again, he must have been on his phone looking at stuff when we very first started because he said something about it being a chick flick. And I was like, this is not a chick flick. So it's funny that you said that. I didn't even realize that people thought it might be.
At best, or at worst, I should say, it would be a chick horror flick.
Okay.
And that might be true, but at the same time, look at the overall story of the movie. Who is the hero of the movie? It's Bruce Willis. He's the actual hero. He accepts death. He accepts living naturally. He's the one, and he's being berated by these women. Clearly, it is. You could say that it's from a feminist perspective if you want to go that route, whatever. And it does have a lot of stuff about how women are viewed, as they age and all that. It's there. But he is the good guy in the movie.
Oh,
so, yeah. It doesn't have any agenda like that.
No.
Oh, another Ned Flanders aspect. He found God.
That is true.
That's true. Though, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I would have found God after that for sure.
Saying that there is evil that exists that could bring people back or keep people from dying. Yeah, it's not too hard to accept the fact that there might be something else going on in the universe after you see the dead come back to life.
And I would try my damnedest to get on the good side.
Oh, yeah.
Now, as far as anything else you want to say about the story, it's the biggest thing other than the straight tale of the movie is basically a commentary about how far are you willing to go to, preserve, youth, and is youth worth preserving? It's basically the gist of it.
I feel like, go ahead. I'll delete that. Oh, go ahead.
Go.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, Daphney.
I feel like Ernest right now.
No, Daphney, you go first.
Storyline. Okay, so two things. One, see, this is why I write shit down. One, you see, okay, so after watching the movie, and really, I was thinking about it last night. I could really tell now that you've said it. This makes sense to me because I wouldn't say that it was choppy in its storyline. Because obviously we had time jumps and stuff like that. However, knowing that this was probably originally written as a television episode that they then expanded into a movie, I can tell you right now, the TV episode probably started with her taking around the time she took the potion through the fight scene with the two women, and then probably ended wherever that with him like fixing them both up and something, because I felt like that was like the main point of the movie, even though it wasn't the climax of the movie. Does that make sense?
If I know what you're saying. So if the crypt keeper had been telling the story, it would have got to the point where he was fixing them both up and they would have been cackling in the background. Then Ernest would have been shown there, poor, like Ernest, like, sweating as he's like trying to, keep these women, perfect or whatever.
Right.
Harkening back to the fact that he was a plastic surgeon, a very good one. So
Right.
he's just doing the same thing he was doing before, but now for dead bodies, basically. And cut to the crypt keeper, making a snarky comment about, about the trying to, stay beautiful, keep your ghoulish figure or something. You know how he is,
Right.
I would agree with that, but I have to add something. Ernest is going to die. So I think the ending of the crypt of Tales from the Crypt would be them finding Ernest dead, or he had killed himself, and now they don't have a way to take care of themselves. And
that could have went that way.
Yeah.
It could have went that way.
That, or them forcing Ernest to take the potion, and now he's in his own personal hell.
Right. But now, and I say that because that might have been the episode that they expanded on.
Yeah.
That whoever actually expanded from a television show runtime to a movie runtime was fucking amazing, because they ended up layering in so many things before and after, right? They made him a plastic surgeon that then, after he married Madeline, started working on famous dead people to make them look right, which just played right into how he ended up having to do Madeline and Helen. Like, there were just so many details that they said, okay, we've got this main part, and to make this all flow, like, we're going to add stuff before and after. So it made a lot more sense after you said that it was probably an expanded TV episode, because it didn't quite feel choppy, but it didn't quite flow. Like, you could pinpoint the acts throughout the movie that normally you can't do that. And normally you can't do that in a TV show too, but usually between the act breaks, you have a commercial, right? It doesn't feel like you have a definite end to an act break, because you go right into a commercial so you can take a breath and blah blah blah. But in a movie they don't have those, so I think that's why it felt like that. So the second thing is just about the story is, you said something about you could argue about it had a feminist bent, and how women are viewed. But I think if you stop and think about it, and I think this is true nowadays too, but I think if you stop and think about how the women in the movie is viewed, it's by other women.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
We do it to ourselves and to each other.
Absolutely, because at the beginning of the movie, Ernest is with Helen, and she's so-called frumpy, right?
Yeah.
But he loves her. He's going to marry her. Then he sees Madeline, who we know in her dressing room is terrified that she looks old and she's got wrinkles and she wants, to look beautiful and young again. But when Ernest sees her for the first time, his words are, she's sensational. He thinks she's amazing, to the point where he drops his fiance and then marries her. It's only the way that, one, we view ourselves as women, but two, we worry about what other women see us as.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting.
I would even argue that Ernest has still loves and appreciates Madeline, even in their the later on. I mean, whenever they're obviously having issues, the only reason he's got to the point of being a drunk and he's being like and doesn't have as much to do with her is because she has pushed him away.
Right.
Well,
and also he also kept that picture of Helen, so he still has feelings for both of these women.
And I mean, it's not like he wasn't attracted to her, because I mean, he still cared. It was just the fact that he probably knew that she was cheating on him. I mean, there was no way that he didn't, the way she was going around with these younger men trying to get a little bit of glory for herself in her own eyes.
Oh, well, he did, because even when she was talking to him in the house and she said something about her boy toys or something like that, and he said, "You know about that?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, everybody knows about that." So he fucking knew.
Yeah. So see, like, I mean, even though he was not, I mean, he was apart from her, she was the one that was making the division. I mean, she was berating him and all this other stuff. She was the one pushing him away. He was still there with her regardless of all that.
Yeah.
He could have left, so I mean, it says a lot in the movie about, like, the fact that she was so caught up in, I mean, what others thought, that, and he obviously didn't care, because he's never shown us cheating on her, except whenever Helen comes back, he's cautious about it. He doesn't jump right into her arms. Yeah. He's like, I don't think we should do this, and then she pushes it, and then of course he's been so long probably neglected that then it goes in that realm. But like, he's still got some resistance even then, and that shows to me that he was still caring about Madeline, even though she had just given up on him.
Well, it's interesting that you say, well, hold on, I lost the thought. Hold on. God damn it, it was good too.
The resistance part of it, or
whatever. I'm on cold medicine.
Aww.
So.
You'll probably think of it. It'll be one of those things where something will trigger it and it'll come back.
Did you guys know that Ernest is a German name with the meaning battle to the death?
I did not know that. Say hello to Leo, people.
Hi, Leo.
Hello. All right. So anything? Well, did your idea come back?
Oh no,
Llareyna, about the story, like what you were going to say about it?
Yes. Okay. So, you said she was so caught up in what other people thought of her, right?
Yes.
And if you stop and think about when Helen and Madeline finally fight it out and come to terms, and they admit why they've been after each other, it's because Madeline thought that Helen thought she was cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why she always went after Helen's men. And it was just to get back from her. And that went all the way back to when they were kids and she overheard a conversation, right? So not only did she go after Helen to get back at her for thinking she was cheap, but if you stop and think about the whole entire rest of her life was her trying to prove to everyone around her that she wasn't cheap. She'd have the most expensive this and the most expensive that. Nothing was a knockoff. Everything was brand name because she wasn't cheap.
That's a very good observation, because she's always, I mean, throughout the entire movie, she's trying to prove to everybody that she deserves the very best and that she has the very best. And it all goes back to that insecurity that she's operating from.
Yep.
As far as the acting goes, I mean, everybody does great in this movie. I mean, like we even said, even the doctor, for that little bit of a scene that they get, he's just the perfect, way into the movie. The only ones who don't really like have any parts, but you can't fault them because they're just there for, I guess, the visuals or whatever, is the guys that are surrounding Lyle. Like, they're just, they look like somebody went out and hired some, guys from a strip club or something. Like,
they really did.
Yeah. Chippendales. It's like we got some Chippendales actors coming, guys in here.
And you know what? This is another way that you could tell this is an old movie, was the fucking hairy chests.
Oh.
Like, everybody had a hairy chest. I was like, what the hell?
I'm surprised. I mean, that there wasn't more. It's just funny when you go back and watch all these older movies, like people, and I guess mostly because I watched Cemetery Man, but like that more people want smoking in these movies, because when you go back, you watch certain movies, like everybody's chain smoking in most.
Oh
of these.
My gosh, I didn't even realize that.
Well,
I don't think there's one actor in the movie that's really doing that.
But they have to preserve their bodies. And I know, like, Bruce Willis could technically be smoking. He's more of a drinker, though, in this film.
Yeah, they got him as a booze hound in this.
But the rest of them are on a mission to preserve themselves, and smoking is not how you would do that.
You know what? That's a really good point that I didn't even think of.
I mean, but I don't know if that was a thing in the early 90s, because this was 94, which means it was made earlier than that. I don't know if that was a thing quite yet, or when did the smoking ads come out?
They were out by this time.
Okay.
I feel like they were pushing that quite a bit by this point.
Yeah, but I like the fact, Raina, that you said that, like, because it plays into this movie whether it was meant to or not, the fact that they wouldn't be smoking, because like you said, if they're trying to preserve this perfectness, anything that would take away from the outer perfection that people would see, right? This is another thing. It's the perfection that people see versus what's going on inside you, right? You can be an alcoholic because you can't see the damage, but you wouldn't smoke or go out in the sunlight, because she's always wearing the sunglasses and the covering her hair and all that jazz.
Got like an umbrella to protect yourself against the sunlight.
Yeah,
and all that
so
stuff.
this would that would play perfectly into not wanting to mess up what people see. God dang, that's good, girl.
And everyone else is still alive. Like, they're old as shit, but they're still alive technically. Madeline and Helen are dead because they died brutally.
Right. Right.
So yes, they're decaying
right off the
much
bat,
faster.
they messed up.
Oh yeah. Like, literally, which one? Who was Helen? Oh, Helen was Goldie Hawn?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
She had that done though for a decade.
About
or more
a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
Madeline, on the other hand, a day? 2 days?
1 day.
One day. She's had a day of youth, and then
perfection. Quote unquote.
Gone in a day.
That fall she has off the steps is like almost like straight out of like a Looney Tunes
cartoon. Oh yeah,
because she's sitting there and like there's no way that she could have been balanced with her heels the way she was
for that long.
Yeah.
Oh, and then how she says that one. See, and this is another thing. She says that one harsh comment, and he goes from I should help her to boop ding.
Yeah,
one little push, and she
right?
just like Bugs Bunny, like barely pushing like Elmer Fudd, and he falls,
And then at the very end, where he's got that potion to his lips, he's about to drink it, and again, she makes that one harsh comment, and he goes, "You know what? Fuck you."
Yeah. You're not the boss of me, bitch.
Yep.
And then the final scene though in the church whenever they're at his funeral is just perfect. I mean, they're sitting there cackling, everybody's like looking around like, who are these fucking bitches that are just in the back,
You catch Daphney and I at y'all's funeral. He was
with a veil so that we can snicker behind him.
He was such an honorable man, would never make a crude comment a day in his life. Us in the background like
Do you remember that time? Yeah.
And then other than the Chippendale actors, there's really nobody. And then the extras they got to play like the dead celebrities. Everybody else who's a main actor does their part.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
well,
A+ all around.
And then the music, it doesn't stand out as much, but the music is really good because it's that real like type of music you would have seen in like the old black and white Universal Monsters movies, going along with the gothic theme,
I thought the music was actually, I thought it did stand out because the music really brought to life what was going on. It exuded excitement and fear and all these different tension, really at the appropriate times. I don't think this movie, again, we talked about it before, I think that it really accentuated, yes, there was great actors, there was a great storyline, there's great visuals, so but the music on top of that, like that is a 100%. Without the music, you're only at 75%, Yeah.
You know what? And I'll have to agree with you because I was sitting here as you were talking and I was like, because I was thinking, I was like, no, nothing really stood out. But that actually should be
it's positive.
A point. Exactly. Because it did exactly what you said, Raina, and it made you feel the emotions and it brought things up, as you're watching these actors in this scene. However, it wasn't to the point where it stood out and it drew your attention away what was going on.
Yes.
So I think you're right. I think because of that, because it didn't stand out, I think it was, God dang, 100% on the music too. Yeah.
Well, the only reason I say that it doesn't stand out is because Alan Silvestri made my favorite soundtrack, Back to the Future, of all time. Like when you hear that theme song to Back to the Future, especially
You know.
you know what movie it's from. Like even when they played it in Ready Player One, like the little instrumentals, I just got goosebumps, thinking about it. Like I mean, I love that music, and that's why it doesn't stand out to me because. But like you said, it does work for the movie, even though it's not like it doesn't make this movie like, there's not one piece of the score you could say if you heard it like outside of the movie, that obviously comes from Death Becomes Her.
Right.
It does work within the context of the movie to add to the scenes themselves.
Yeah.
Now trivia. You're gonna. Some of these are pretty fun. This first one I feel bad about. Meryl Streep accidentally scarred Goldie Hawn's cheek with a shovel during that fight scene.
Jesus fuck.
That's crazy.
They were really fighting.
So I guess they weren't prop shovels. They were real shovels, and they were like, "Go at it, girls."
Even if they were prop shovels, apparently it was still enough to where like she slipped and that has to, just think about where Goldie Hawn was at in her, this was not like past her prime. This was her prime. And she got, and to get a scar on her cheek, that's a big thing for a Hollywood actress.
Oh, yeah.
Is this why she didn't act as much? Is there really and truly a feud between her and Meryl Streep now? Are we getting down to the juicy bits?
She was mad as hell.
Madder than hell. I don't know that there was anything like that. I don't think that's in any of this, but this was the first film that used photorealistic human skin software, though. Getting back to the, talking about the CGI and how it looked like it was, and it is, and it's a good point because I seriously thought that was a makeup effect and not CGI. So there you go.
They done good.
And you know what's funny is you said that, and now I'm thinking about the scenes. And even if someone was to say, like, say this movie came out nowadays and they were like, oh, well, that CGI, you can really tell that it's CGI because she looks like a Barbie, right? Plastic skin. But that's kind of the point, though, is they wanted to look like the perfect Barbie skin. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it would have. It's funny because even the Barbie movie would have probably been better if they would have went the plastic route, but they didn't even do that in that movie.
Oh my God, that's a good point. Like Barbie World and then Real World, that would be great.
Yeah, like if Margot Robbie, which somebody pointed out, not this review of that movie, but just something that I thought was funny. If she's supposed to represent like when she goes to the real world, something about like she's not beautiful or anything. It's Margot Robbie. You picked the wrong person for that. Now if they would have, if they would have had it like this, because originally Amy Schumer was supposed to be Barbie. Yeah, exactly. If Barbie would have went from her reality looking like Margot Robbie to the normal world, she looked like Amy Schumer, then you would have had a point.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if they would have just, I don't know, plasticized their faces or something while they were in Barbie World a little bit more, that would have made more sense as far as context of that movie. But anyways.
Well, it's funny because there's makeup effects like that now. People want that glowy, dewy looking skin that has shine on it. Where back in the day, we wanted that matte,
all that powder.
Yes.
Well, and then you also think about some of these TikTok girls or whatever that try to go for that anime look, and it looks artificial because it's supposed to, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's a thing. In the opening scene, Meryl Streep's character is starring in a musical version of Sweet Bird of Youth from 1962, a play by Tennessee Williams about an aging actress who pines for her lost youth.
Oh, that's
attention to detail, man.
See, that's what I'm telling you. From start to end, it's just magic.
This film won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, defeating Batman Returns and Alien 3.
Wow.
The Batman Returns one, that hurts. That hurts a lot.
Yeah, but after seeing this movie, can you not agree?
Kind of. The CGI was pretty damn good, but then also Michelle Pfeiffer was really damn good. So I'm just saying.
I don't think Michelle Pfeiffer had a lot of CGI going.
No, she didn't. She didn't need it.
She had a lot of leather going on, but not CGI.
Alien 3 had a lot going on. I'm surprised.
Well, yeah, but I feel like Alien 3 had the it was almost an example of like bad visual effects at the time, because they fucked that movie over whenever it was released. I mean, there was
not only that, you have to remember the first Alien had way more practical effects and some CGI, and they made the mistake that a lot of movies and a lot of franchises do. Is the further they go along, they're like, oh, we'll just do CGI, and they slow down or they stop on the practical effects, and it really shows.
Yeah, and then even without that, they made the bulk of the movie to save on the effects budget. They made it in like this one like monotone like prison looking setting or whatever. So that really took away from the visuals, which probably threw it over the other ones. Yeah. But having said that, in Batman Returns, I will say this: the effects work that they did to make Gotham itself. And then the Penguin. That was pretty good visual effects. Just throwing it out there for them.
Well, this
and you know what? We have to remember at this time, this was visual effects. It wasn't necessarily like special effects.
Right.
That's true.
Which I think is a big difference between thinking about movies then and thinking about them now.
They didn't have a special category. It's like who wins the best award for making Captain Marvel actually have a tits and ass in this movie. You know, they didn't have specific categories for that. So this film was originally going to be a sequel to Tales from the Crypt from 1972. The latter film was a favorite Halloween classic of director Robert Zemeckis when he was a young man.
Wow.
So
you could tell the influences, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it went back to EC Comics. I mean, completely in the tone. Bruce Willis was replaced Kevin Kline as Ernest. I don't know that. What do you think?
I could see Kevin Kline as Ernest, but
he would be amazing as Ernest.
I'm just glad it was Bruce Willis, though, because of where Bruce is at now. And I mean, I really do love that fucking Ned Flanders effect.
I do, because. Oh man, because look, Kevin Kline would have it was almost like this role would have been written for him.
Exactly, yes. It would have fit with his type that he played it around then. So,
but I think you're right, Raina. But by putting Bruce Willis in this role, it made it funnier.
It worked because you wouldn't expect that for. I think back then, like as a kid, I would have been like, Bruce Willis, like isn't he? Like an action star, you wouldn't expect this. This was so like a complete opposite, 180 from what he normally does.
Right.
And I liked it for the fact that it allowed Bruce Willis to exercise his comedy chops, which he did have in Moonlighting. It was just him circling back to it, after years of just being the action guy,
showing that he didn't have to be typecast. He could still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's humor in the Die Hard movies. There is. I mean, it's just not the kind of humor that you get in this.
Right.
During the description of the plot to kill Madeline, there was a quick shot of the folder being stamped "case closed" at a desk. Also on the desk was a brain in a glass jar labeled "abnormal," a tribute to the original Frankenstein, to spoof Young Frankenstein from 1974.
I love it.
So many details.
I love that in Frankenstein. He's like, what was the name of the person you got this from? Abby Normal?
I will not be angry.
The film has often been said to be like an extended episode of Tales from the Crypt by fans of the show, especially considering that director Robert Zemeckis had produced the show while he concurrently directed this film.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Going back to that. Isabella Rossellini revealed on the David Letterman show that she had nothing on but a sarong and necklaces for her character of Lyle.
Yeah, we know.
No shit, Sherlock. Did you see the same movie that I saw?
But you don't say.
Animatronic puppets of Meryl Streep's head were created and used to shoot the scene where a resurrected Madeline confronts Ernest. The effect didn't look right in the shot. Ultimately, they used CGI instead.
Okay. I mean.
So that goes back to what we were saying about where the head and the body met.
Yeah. And I think there's something else about her walking backwards in this too, if I remember right. So we'll get to that eventually. The trailer features the theme from Tales from the Crypt 1989 by Danny Elfman.
Oh shit! I did not know he did the theme.
That's what I was going to say. So two things. One, I didn't understand, or I didn't realize that they used the Tales from the Crypt theme, but also Danny Elfman.
if you think back to the Tales from the Crypt theme, that fits that it would be Danny
Yes.
Elfman because it's got that beat to it. It's like the Beetlejuice theme does. That even the time that it's kept in the song is similar.
That's an awesome fact.
Thanks to the technological advancements of this film, Industrial Light and Magic used some of the same techniques for Jurassic Park.
Wow.
That's awesome. And didn't they win for?
I believe they did. Yeah.
Visual effects. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah,
And
because they
here's
were
the
right
other thing,
next to
too.
each other.
And here's the thing that people talk about with Jurassic Park is that their effects still stand up.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
That first, I still argue to this day there was no reason to make any other movie but the original Jurassic Park. All the rest of them are kind of garbage after that.
Yep.
I just find it funny that this little horror comedy movie, it got advanced, visual effects that led to Jurassic Park. A little other movie that we covered in Ghost Season called The Frighteners was the technology they used to make the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
Yep.
Same technology.
Love it. See, the horror genre just pushes the envelope all around. And it doesn't get the love that it deserves.
Well, it does by the fans in the box office because anytime a studio starts doing badly, they put out a cheap horror movie, and it usually does great money to fund something else.
Well, because horror is relatively cheap to make versus a lot of the other genres, and so you get something that has a good story and is relatively cheap to make. And you can make some bank on that.
But they always forget it. Like they put it like in the ghetto of like the genres.
It's the redheaded stepchild of movies.
Hey.
Soon to be replaced by a person of color.
Yeah, only to be replaced by a marvel of color. Yeah.
Oh.
After Kevin Kline dropped out of the film and turned down the role of Ernest Menville, Jeff Bridges auditioned for the role. Bridges was turned down.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, that
would have not worked.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Jeff Bridges. No.
Yeah.
He would have played it too straight.
I love Jeff Bridges, but one thing that he's kind of got on my nerves with a little bit in recent years is his cowboy voice is really mumbly, and there's something about it that irks me. I don't, I don't know if you've seen Hell or High Water, but it's the same voice that he used to play Rooster Cogburn in the remake to that movie, and it's a real mumbly Southern accent. I don't know. There's just something about it. I'm just like, come on, Jeff, do something else.
He could play He could play the Colonel for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Why? Because he never speaks?
No, well that too, but like he's a lot of his tuxes he's been wearing, or not tux suits he's been wearing lately look very colonel-y, is all I'm saying.
That's funny.
Originally in the script, other celebrities, some of whom were living at the time production, were supposed to appear at Lyle's party. Those celebrities included George Harrison and Dick Clark.
Oh, that would have been cool.
That would have been amazing, especially since didn't Dick Clark live to be 150 or something?
Yeah, he didn't really seem to age after a certain point, which would have been perfect.
Dude.
Bruce Willis suggested two ideas for the title of the film. These choices were "It's Death, Baby" and "My Man Death." Ultimately, Death Becomes Her was chosen.
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, those are terrible.
Yeah, I didn't think they were good either. I'm just like, what are you thinking, Bruce? Come on. This is Mary Ellen Trainor's third time in a film directed by Robert Zemeckis. The other films that Trainor starred in were Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future Part 2, and Forrest Gump. Trainor and Zemeckis were married for 20 years during the period that these films were made.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
Good to be married to the director, I guess.
Right.
The potion is depicted in the film as a pink ethereal essence. In the original script, however, it was described as a thick gray mercury-like liquid. I think that the thick gray liquid would have almost been better because it would have depicted just how almost like the corruption they were taking on by accepting it. But the pink makes sense for the life part of it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also from the visual effects, I think it would be harder to make the gray liquid
kind of like mercury looking fluid.
Yeah, or to pop off screen, right? Because every time that that potion bottle comes on screen, like it's almost a focal point.
Oh yeah, it's vitality in a bottle.
Yeah, even when the two characters are talking and it's just off to the side, but it's still on screen. It is a focal point because of that color. So I kind of like the fact that they changed it.
They probably did it for that reason. Just probably the person who's over the visuals was looking at it, the cinematographer, and he was just like, we need this to pop, so let's make it look like this.
Speaking of popping, Reverend, the woman behind you is wearing the purple, over, I don't want to call it a robe because it hardly covers anything, but in the movie it was white. Like colors make a huge difference.
Yeah, and the fact that they made Goldie Hawn's like hair like bright red, her outfit was bright red. Like there's a lot of like color in this movie.
Oh, for
to
sure.
offset the fact that once they're dead, they become very pale, very like corpse like. You know?
Okay, so 2 points about that Leo pointed out to me again. Leo and his little IMDb stuff going on. So, what he said or what he found online was that Zemeckis actually modeled Goldie Hawn's outfit, the red dress and the hair, after Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I was like, yes, I can see that.
That makes sense, and I think I might have even read that on this or whatever, doing the trivia search or whatever, that there was that this was made like the third time that Zemeckis, like it's one of his signatures. He had like a beautiful redhead and like or whatever in his movies, because he had done that in another movie besides Who Framed Roger Rabbit as well. So,
well, and the other thing too is you were talking about how the women go, before death and after death. And I thought it was really interesting that if you look at Bruce Willis and how he's, his makeup is done, all the way up to the point where you see that him and Madeline are not getting along. He looks alive and vibrant and pink cheeked and everything like that. But from that point on, he almost looks like a corpse.
Yeah,
like
he's very pale.
Yeah, very sickly looking and stuff like that. And I just thought it was such a juxtaposition that between someone who was fake, like Madeline and Helen, and they looked healthy, but they were dead, and someone who was alive but looked sickly. I just thought it was such a cool way that they did.
Oh, they pointed out in the movie too, like they had hoped he had taken the potion at this point, and they see him in the crowd and they're like, ugh, he looks like shit.
He's like shit. Yes. Oh, I loved it.
That is true. They do point that out, and like and then only his hand had been affected because she dropped it on his hand and it turned back. The three main characters, as we have said, are a play on the words, or shortened down, Mad, Ern, and Hell, because it's Madeline, Ernest, and Helen. So Madder and Hell is what basically that amounts to, which is pretty funny.
I always love those little, I don't know if you'd call them Easter eggs or what, but I always love those tiny little details like that this movie or any other movie that you pick up and you're like, oh, I see what you did there.
Or you don't realize it, and then somebody puts that, and you're like, "Oh my God, you're right." It's that's a thing in this movie.
I love a smart writer like that.
Yeah, that does it, like make it blatant and just kind of throws it in there for you to discover.
Yep.
Even though her character Madeline Ashton is portrayed as 50 or over throughout most of the film, Meryl Streep was in fact 43 when she shot this movie.
Damn.
But even at 43, she doesn't look like it. I don't think.
No,
not even.
I would have said like 38.
This is even stranger to me. Helen, played by Goldie Hawn, is portrayed as 50, but she was 46 in reality.
I never would have thought she was older than Meryl Streep.
No. Because she looked better in this movie than Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep has always had kind of mature look to her face. Some women just have that, I think.
And I think it's the cheeks for Goldie Hawn. It gives her that younger, not baby fat, but you know what I'm talking, like before you really hit like your mid-20s and your face thins, you still have that bit of a youthfulness to you.
I'm blanking her name from The Mask or whatever.
Cameron Diaz.
she had the baby fat and the mask and looked gorgeous, and then like after that dropped a ton of weight and then got that facial thinning and it aged her because of it.
So showing my weight mostly in my face is a good thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you look not childish, but you look you look younger. Youthful. We'll go with youthful.
Right. We don't want to go into the Hollywood's other obsession.
Oh God.
Lyle von Rumen or Isabella Rossellini has 12 minutes total screen time in this whole entire film.
And wasn't it wonderful? Every 12 minutes of it.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to show you that she stands out, obviously. Yeah. I mean, in the movie.
And here's the thing. This movie had a thing with butts.
Yeah.
It does.
We saw a lot of cheek.
We did. We saw all her cheeks. They were tiny cheeks, but you know what? Whatever. They were cute, and hey, show them off, girl, while they're in their glory.
Right.
According to the original screenplay, Madeline's lover was a Latin cabana boy named Marcelo.
He didn't look Latin at all.
I can see that because even though they might have changed that into the final movie, when she goes to see him, it does kind of look like she snuck off to the pool house, with the fronds and everything like that. Yeah,
it does kind of look like that. Jennifer Jason Leigh was considered for the role of Helen Sharp.
I don't even know who that is.
She, if I'm thinking right, she is the actress that was in a lot of. It was either, I want to say it was in Cronenberg's movies.
Oh Jesus!
But she's, I mean, at the time, she was actually, I mean, I did watch a movie with her in it recently. She was in Existence. This was the name of the movie she was in, and she would have been an interesting character. She was also, I think, did you watch The Hateful Eight with Kurt Russell in it?
No, she's like a not Keira Knightley, Kevin Bacon's wife, Keira Sedgwick knockoff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Goldie Hawn was a better pick in my opinion, but
yeah, I agree.
Still, renowned critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert.
Oh, God.
Let's see what they had to say. Gave this a thumbs down.
Of course they did.
Stating that the visual effects were great, but it lacked any real substance or character depth.
What movie did they watch?
I was going to say, did we just spend an hour talking about the depth of these characters and the details that they put in there to show these things?
Listen, I don't know how they are the start of the reason why I've never trusted critics.
Yeah.
Opinions on anything.
100%.
Like, they hate all the movies that are fun just because they're like, oh, there's too much graphic horror in this, or graphic, like, okay, mom and dad, that's fine. But then they turn around and then like a movie that actually has a little bit more to it, like this one, they're like, I don't really see anything to it. There was a bunch of women yakking, and we don't like that. So even though the film deals with undead people, the word zombie is never mentioned.
Can I just say something real quick on the Robert and Ebert?
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, yeah.
Siskel and Ebert. It's probably because it's horror.
Oh yeah, they don't like horror. It. Yeah.
Well, except for Poltergeist, they loved that, or at least Ebert did. I hate to take that back. Siskel hated Poltergeist.
Okay.
But,
yeah, so it's horror and a bunch of women yakking. So yeah, they hated it.
Yeah, I mean, two things that they did not care about. Women.
Why do you guys hate
movies.
Women?
Because they couldn't get any.
Ooh.
Exactly. But this is a movie with zombies, but they don't call them that. One of those type movies.
They never did that. I've only heard the word zombie in one film. We are going to be reviewing it here shortly.
And they mention it a lot in that movie, which is funny. So
can I just say, I really appreciate you guys letting me jump in on this, because I've been very jealous of some of the episodes you guys have done, because I don't watch a lot of horror. And sometimes you guys would come out with movies that I've actually seen in the horror genre. And so I was like, I want to do one. And they were like, we're doing zombies. And I was like, well, does Death Becomes Her count? And they were like, yes, it does. And I was like, woohoo!
We just get like,
so I appreciate
season,
it.
Oh, we love having you on. Every season we'll just be like, okay, this is the season we're going to be doing. And if you have a movie you want to jump in on that you think would go with that season, tell us, because usually
Listen, I have a feeling that human horror would have a lot of movies that she's seen. Like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, The Good Son. There's a lot of movies out there.
I'm sorry, you said human horror, and I went straight to Centipede, and I was like, "Fuck no, I don't."
One of them. That's gonna be one of them.
That's Llareyna's. That's not me. I'm not looking forward to that whatsoever.
No.
It's just so rare that I have a movie that he hasn't seen or he doesn't want to see that I.
And now you have to do it.
I don't know. I mean, it'll only be my second time because it's one of those films that I'm like, I never really want to watch this again. I don't have any interest, but then it's for the show, so it's like, here we go.
Well, I gotta say, I realized the other day after we had picked this, I was thinking about it. I was like, I think when I actually saw this the last time, it was on cable TV.
Yeah.
And you know how they like edit it?
Yes.
Not only for runtime, but for graphic stuff. And I was worried that this was going to be way worse because so for another example, I had watched Roadhouse on cable television.
Oh, shit.
And then when I watched it, like for real,
the scene where he rips the guy's throat out.
Yes! I about lost my shit. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Right? Because it's just a throwaway line when you watch it on cable. And so I was really kind of worried that this one was going to be way worse, but it wasn't. It was great. I still love it.
Now, I love this little tidbit. During filming, Robert Zemeckis would start each take by saying, "Hold on to your butts." David Kemp remembered this and put it in Jurassic Park.
Oh, hell
That's
yeah.
amazing.
This film takes place over the course of 51 years. It starts out in 1978.
Oh, yeah.
And the final time that you see Helen and Madeline, it's 2029.
So they could actually be out there still somewhere.
Still, yeah. They're still out there living their best undead life right now. So Helen drinks the potion on October 22nd, 1985. This should make anybody who's seen Back to the Future kind of perk up because that is the exact date that Marty is considered in the present whenever he goes back to the, to 1955.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the early drafts of the script had Lyle being over 100 years old instead of 71. It was also implied that she has pandered her potion to several historical figures throughout the ages with varying results. Another draft had Lyle being Cleopatra, hence the Egyptian-themed box and potion. So there you go.
She had all the look of Cleopatra.
She really did.
We all know what Cleopatra was actually European, or
she was Greek.
There we go.
Yep.
And that she was pale.
Not according to Netflix, though.
Stop. Okay, so actually what's funny is with the early drafts of the script having her being over 100, so I was actually shocked when she said 71. I was expecting her to be like 125 or whatever, and then she said 71, and I was like,
I was expecting her to be like several hundred years old.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly,
I mean, it makes sense that she's wanting to show off and she's still technically alive. And so she's like, I'm 71 years old. But it would have been cool to be like, I'm 100 and something years old, because like I said, she is giving Cleopatra vibes big time. They didn't wear fucking shit back in the day. They wore necklaces and sarongs.
Because it was hot as shit outside.
Yeah.
And she had the straight across bangs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she definitely was given those kind of vibes.
I don't know if I put this in the trivia, but I did remember reading that when she asked Madeline, like, well, how old do you think I am? Which is a loaded question when it comes to women anyway. But then Helen's like, I don't think you're a day over like 30, whatever she said.
38, and she looked offended.
Yes.
Well, the reason, here's the funny thing. That's the exact age Isabella Rossellini was when she made this movie.
That's great.
Look, at this point, at this stage in my life, with everyone trying so hard to not look their age, and I'm guilty of it as well, if somebody says I look my age, thank you. I just don't want to look older than my age. Like,
right? It's
I'm
like,
in my
look,
40s.
I earned every one of these freaking days.
So if you say I look like I'm in my 40s, thank you. But if you tell me I look like I'm over 45, we're going to have a talk.
Yeah.
Among the guests at Lyle's party are Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe, Greta Garbo, Elvis Presley, Jim Morrison, and James Dean.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome. I'm sad I didn't catch more of them.
Yeah, the Greta Garbo one I didn't see at all.
I didn't catch Greta, yeah.
And then Andy Warhol might have been like whenever they were just like milling about, like in the, while the guy was speaking.
You know what's funny though? Speaking of Andy Warhol, there was in the background of Madeline's house, there was an Andy Warhol painting. You know how it's the 4 squares with, I think it's Marilyn Monroe in them.
That's got different colors for each one of them.
Okay. It's that, but it's Madeline in the Andy Warhol painting.
Interesting. I did not see that.
Oh, yeah, I did
though.
too. I did see that.
Yep.
In one of the original proposed endings, Madeline and Helen steal a car from one of the guests at the party in order to chase after Ernest. However, they end up accidentally driving over a cliff and crash into a huge explosion. Then Madeline and Helen emerge from the wreckage as charred skeletons.
Oh my God.
That would have been the perfect ending to go for the Crypt Keeper to came out and
there you go.
Oh, hold on, guys, real quick. Update. Andy Warhol was actually hugging Marilyn Monroe in
the scene?
Yes, where the celebrities were.
That's awesome. Yeah, again, you get distracted by the red dress.
Yes. You're like, oh, that's Marilyn. But who's that white-haired? It was fucking Andy Warhol.
That's nice. But them going over a cliff reminds me of
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was thinking that too.
Another one with 2 women and a man.
Who was in Thelma and Louise?
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt was the man.
No, I know. He was the man. Who was the 2 women?
Gina Davis.
Oh, Gina Davis. Okay.
Yeah. In one of the early drafts of the script, Lyle's main desire was to preserve the world's greatest minds and creative talents for her own interests. Such figures that she enticed to take the potion were William Shakespeare, Abraham Lincoln, Max Factor. However, like Ernest, they all came to the same conclusion that taking the potion in order to have eternal life in a physical, fragile world is wrong. In retaliation and to keep her secret, Lyle ends up killing them. This would explain why in the theatrical film, Lyle wanted to capture and possibly kill Ernest after he rejects taking the potion.
That's awesome. But that also would explain why she was willing to give it to him for free, because she saw
the skill that he had
with Madeline and Helen.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, this is great because now I have all these clients. And if something bad was to happen to them, he could help fix it. And if I give him the potion and he lives forever, he can always fix it.
And he will owe me because he got it for free, but nothing's free.
Nice. I like it.
Interesting. She wanted Max Factor to take the potion. The makeup. He's a makeup guru, but he was more than that. He was like a scientist, wasn't he?
That would make sense to do the chemistry behind the makeup.
Yeah. I mean, and that would have played into her wanting like something, beauty related or whatever to be on her side.
Well, and if you think like, William Shakespeare could have written sonnets about her and stuff like that.
Yeah. It plays into the fact that she's very narcissistic, in an unreleased deleted scene, Ernest and Madeline's housekeeper, Rose, Nancy Fish, arrives at the mansion to get ready for work. When she goes in the kitchen and opens up the freezer, she sees Madeline in there. Madeline says to her, close the door. Horrified, Rose closes the door and runs away screaming. This is followed by Ernest getting Madeline out of the freezer and dragging her upstairs.
That's hilarious.
And to further go with that, there are several...
Wait, and can I just say, it wasn't until you started talking about this that I realized that after we see her give Ernest the Bloody Mary for breakfast, we don't ever see her again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's not in it after that point. There are several scenes featured in the trailer that didn't make into the final cut of the film. One of the scenes is the scene where Ernest takes a frostbitten Madeline out of the freezer and drags her upstairs, and she says, I feel sweaty. He responds, that's not sweat, dear. I think you're defrosted.
Another one of those, I'm trying to hold on to reality by pointing out the obvious, but it comes off as freaking hilarious.
Yeah, that would have been actually a very good scene in the movie if they would have had that. In the scene where Ernest is spray painting Madeline's lower body with flesh-colored paint while the phone was wildly ringing due to Helen calling him constantly, off to the side of Ernest, among the various item tools he's using to give Madeline a fresh makeover, is a vat filled with red liquid. Upon closer inspection, the liquid is Madeline's blood. As a mortician, Ernest is required to drain the blood from his corpses in order to avoid further decomposition and unsanitary occurrences.
Yeah, he basically embalmed her.
her.
Yeah. Yeah, because Helen sees him picking something up, and she makes the point, or she makes the comment, formaldehyde, what the hell, and then you get that nice pan of all of like the hoses and tubes and grossness. And
so you would have to assume they did the same thing to Helen then right after that, because she would have decomposed like at a greater rate if he had done the same thing to her.
Well, and notice they never actually say how he fixed her, because she had a fucking hole
in her stomach, and he
and the next scene.
When I saw that scene, my first thought was he did like what taxidermists do, where there's like parts missing from like gut shot animals or something, where they like pack it with that material.
Yeah.
God, I didn't think about that.
In the theatrical ending, Ernest's second wife's name is Claire, according to the priest's eulogy. This shows the removal of the character of Tony, played by Tracy Ullman, Ernest's love interest from the original cut of the film. In the original ending, Ernest and Tony would go on to marry and have a happy life together.
And she would prove him to not be as flaccid as
Did
Matt
we
would
ever
say.
hear about this Tony?
No.
Before this fact?
No, they ut her out of the movie completely for whatever reason.
Okay.
But I'm glad you pointed out, Llareyna. He achieves immortality the right way in this movie.
I know.
By children.
Yes.
Which is how that's the whole point. Your body still lives, or at least part of you still lives in your descendants. So, yep. I mean, which is oddly prescient thought about Hollywood, because they're all about like they hate the idea of like having children, and they're all about abortion and all this other stuff.
Well, it messes up their body.
Yeah, but it's and they're very, very concerned about trying to preserve themselves, like physically, but if they would just devote themselves to their children, that's where they should put their effort into.
But also notice where that sentiment come from, right? You just spent the last however long in this movie watching these narcissistic people trying to perfect themselves and keep their perfection going. But at the very end, and to live forever. And at the very end, it was the voice of the priest
that
pointed out that he found immortality and that he will live on forever in his family and children.
Exactly.
And it's funny because when he makes that comment about he found the secret to immortality, the women are about to walk out.
Yeah.
And they pause and turn around. And then he is able, it's pointed. Done on purpose, that he gets the moment to have camera on him and say those words. And then you can just see how you would hope that someone who'd been through 50 whatever years of this crap of the maintaining, and this is taken to wild extremes, but someone would hear that and it would click and make sense. But for them and their narcissistic ways, they go blah blah blah, turn around and walk out. Right,
but totally ignore it.
The whole point of the movie is that little 2-minute scene right there where he talks about he found love, he found the secret to immortality and the fountain of youth. It would be in his family and children.
And Siskel and Ebert look at this movie and say there's nothing going on whatsoever in it.
Blah,
like they
blah,
don't
blah.
watch movies. They really don't.
No, I don't think so.
In the original script, Madeline and Helen end up doing a lot of physical damage to one another during the fight. After they had reconciled and went to Ernest, like in the film, they greet him at the doorway, casting their shadows in his room. However, their shadows in the script were described as horrible, misshapen shadows.
Ew.
That would have been cool because it would add more to the horror aspect of it.
Oh, yeah.
Although to him trying to fix that would have been probably a Herculean task if he had done it. Madeline was mocked and chastised, has mocked and chastised Ernest for being impotent. Yet, ironically, as the evidence, as we said by his eulogy, when he later remarries and quits drinking, he ends up having a total of 6 kids, which are 2 sons and 4 daughters. This is incredible considering he was over 50 when he became a father.
Ooh.
That's funny because when when the priest was talking about that, and he was like 2 sons, and I was like, oh, that's not bad, and 4 daughters, and in my head I went 2 plus 4. That dude had 6.
Just popping kids out.
Yeah. But besides the fact that he was 50.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There might be something to say there too about how men can, always procreate or through most of their life, and there's a timeline for women, but they don't. I don't feel like the movie gets into that. I'm just saying that there's something to be said about that. So,
well, I think it goes to show what you said earlier about he is the hero of this story.
Yeah,
this might not be his story, but he is the hero of this story, right? Because we get a beginning, a middle, and end. We actually get an end for him. And by showing that it wasn't him that was the problem that couldn't have any kids, right? After she'd called him impotent and flaccid and all these terrible things to his face.
Yeah.
But then once he left that terrible situation, he was able to go on, find love, and have 6 kids. So obviously he was not flaccid or impotent.
It was you, homegirl.
Right? So I think that's just another subtle dig to he is the hero of the story. You are not. And you were the problem all along.
Yeah, and he had, even though he was, had every right to be like the same kind of narcissistic, because he was, they pay him in the movies, he was the top plastic surgeon, could name any price he wanted because he could fix anybody and make them perfect. But there's no point in this movie where you ever get the fact that he's not anything but humble. Like, right. He doesn't like come off as like this guy who's full of himself, and they do, like both of them do, so that goes into it as well. In the original script, Helen didn't become an obese cat lady, and when Ernest meets up with Helen years later at her book signing event, she hasn't yet taken the potion. Thus, she looks older, yet is still beautiful and glamorous. She was beautiful enough to seduce Ernest and make Madeline antsy and jealous. I prefer it being the other way, where she actually took the potion, but that's just me.
I love the fat cat lady.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's one, it's hilarious. Two, it just highlights her insane mental place where she is, because you could see her becoming that fat cat lady, because she's done nothing but sit in a chair and rewatch death scenes of Madeline over and over again while she stuffs her face with frosting from her fingers. It just pounds it home even better. And then I think seeing her frumpy, and then you can understand where she goes to fat cat lady. And then first of all, the reveal where they're looking at her and Madeline's going, oh, she hasn't changed, she's gained weight, she's still frumpy, and then whoever that woman is steps to the side and you see her.
Yeah.
It's impactful. And you wouldn't have had that moment of her still being petty and then basically getting slapped in the face, if you hadn't have had the fat cat lady. And then you wouldn't have had the funny she's in the asylum bit and all that. So I love the fact that they did that.
I like how immediately, like, Madeline's like, we're leaving.
Yeah, this woman who looks better than I do, because after I've had years of the best plastic surgery that somebody can afford. So,
yeah.
We've already mentioned.
Not only that, but it goes into play when she admits that she had taken the potion years and years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So she didn't have to have the plastic surgery.
Yeah, she was locked in at an earlier age, so she automatically looked better because of it. We've already discussed this. This is basically the scene where the ER doctor's looking at her. That tablet was nitroglycerin, and he was having a heart attack, and that's where everybody was going after Ernest leaves the room, and they're responding to a code. Helen was originally supposed to take the potion in the final act of the film leading up to her fight with Madeline. So I don't know that having her take it later on. I think it's better the way they did it. Again.
Yeah,
I agree.
Despite the unseen deleted scene where it had explained why the nuns were in the hospital morgue, where it was to identify the body of a priest. Some fans have theorized that the crying, floating nuns shown in the film symbolize that Madeline has damned herself to a fate worse than death after drinking Lyle's potion and then getting herself killed due to her carelessness and cruelty. Despite being legally dead, Madeline's soul is forever trapped inside of her decaying body, and she'll never be able to properly pass on.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. And those nuns were floating. They weren't walking.
Yeah. That's the thing. The floating of the nuns is what makes that scene strange. Even if you just say that she was because that was the scene. They were like, "Oh, we're here because the priest died." They were floating. There has to be a symbolism behind that.
See, and I didn't know about the whole, undeleted or the deleted scene. I just thought it was put in for a creep factor because, I mean, it would make sense for nuns to be down there. Either, I guess nuns don't give last rites, but, maybe a sister had died or a priest had died or whatever, and they had gone to the morgue for some reason. That didn't bother me. Like, I didn't question why they were there, but you are absolutely right. The floatiness is what was the creep factor. And I thought they just did it for that.
When Mr. Chagall is talking to Madeline after he sends his assistant Anna away, his eye keeps moving strangely. One of his eyes keeps blinking really fast while the other one keeps wandering in an unnatural manner to where he has to turn it correctly. Which is funny because Katy Perry recently had something like that happen in real life, so it makes you wonder. But anyways, he keeps putting his hand over the eye that's wandering to hide this problem from Madeline. It's theorized that since he's Lyle von Rumen's assistant and recruiter and most likely took the potion, either Mr. Chagall was involved in some sort of accident involving his face, which the potion couldn't fix, or he's possibly an undead member of her society, and that his eyes was, he basically whatever happened to him that, after he became immortal, like damaged his eye, and it keeps doing that. So,
dude, I never noticed that.
Oh, I did. I thought it was just like a weird tick, right? Because you think they're in a place where they're trying to fix you into perfection, and he's got this weird tick. And it wasn't until he showed up as the speaker at the party that I was like, oh.
The funny thing is, though, the funny thing in the movie, though, is whenever he shows up to speak at her party, his eye's fine. So some people have also theorized that maybe that was prior to getting the potion. But
he still has that tick.
So I don't know, but I like it. I think the idea is creepier if he's dead, and that's the reason his eye's doing that weird, twitch thing that's going on. With
he's trying to keep it in the socket.
Yeah, like it's rolling around and he can't really keep it where it's supposed to be at.
Gross.
That is all the trivia I have for this movie. I think it's a fun movie. I really do. I enjoy it quite a bit. I would give it 3.75 out of 5.
Wow.
Easy.
That is the rating of Rotting Corpses. Daphney,
Yes.
What would you rate on the Rotting Corpses scale out of 5?
Out of 5, I would probably boy, I'd probably have to go 4.5.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly where I'm at, which is hilarious.
I mean, part of me wants to give it a 5, but I think like I said, because what I mentioned about earlier about it being choppy but not really being choppy, I think that's what brings it down to a 4.5 because it's not like perfection. But yeah, boy, it's a 4.5 for me.
I can't give it a 5 knowing that we are a horror film podcast. And while this is a horror comedy and we do review horror comedies, it's still like there's certain horror comedies that still have a little bit of scare factor in them. And this one more or less has a lesson, but not so much scare in it. So that's where I'm with it, because I don't care how choppy this CGI looks or not, any of this. It's from the 90s. Early to mid 90s, and it holds up well in 2024.
Right?
How old is this movie
And the
now?
message is still good too.
30 years? 40 years?
Just about, yeah. It's going to be exactly 30 years at this point.
Exactly 30 years. So that's what brings it up to the higher point for me is that, you can talk all the shit you want to, but what were you watching in the 90s that looked this good?
Well, and then went on to influence Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my personal rating on it is where it's at just because, I know other movies that are coming out this season that are definite 5s for me. So I gotta have a baseline.
You got to give yourself some room.
Yeah. So and one of them is a horror comedy.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. So I mean, so this one is a 3.75. I would give it a 4 maybe, but like it's on the line for me there.
See, that's the thing, Daphney, is every April for April Fools, we do a horror comedy. Because there's always a horror comedy. So like, that's the thing, is you could probably join us on almost all of those. Because
I don't know. Tucker and Dale, I can't do.
Really? Oh my God. Well, I think we already did that one.
We already did
that
good.
One.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, it's a possibility is what I'm saying.
Well, good. Well, I figured this was, you guys put it great because it's like a Valentine's Day, because it's love, but not really love, and I mean,
Ernest found love. I mean, that's kind of the point. So.
Oh, he did.
He found love and he was able to keep it up,
It's funny because the impotence does factor into another movie we're going to discuss here very shortly.
Oh, Lord.
I don't even want to know. Yeah. That was not enough of a hint for me, and I don't want to know.
She's like, and I'm out.
Anything else y'all want to say before we wrap this one up?
It was great. I was so glad that you guys let me bring this movie to you guys, because I know this is probably a little lighter than what you normally do, but I had a lot of fun watching this and discussing it with you guys, and this was a lot of fun. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think you've brought a lot of great points, and I appreciate you being on here. And honestly, this movie was going to be, I mean, I like this movie quite a bit, obviously, and this was going to be reviewed one way or the other. When you mentioned, I was like, perfect. That's the season to put it on. Zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And the thing is that, and the fans know that, listen, but I do not like zombie movies. I hate them really well. And so being able to take a break and have a refresher this whole month has been pretty amazing, obviously, because it's been mostly romantic zombie movies, which I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
Before
that's a weird phrase.
Yeah.
Necrophilia, just slightly removed.
Rom Zoms.
Yeah, but we're getting ready to do. I mean, we're getting close to Dawn of the Dead, so you're going to be right back in the thick of things then.
That's why I need something like this to kind of. And then thankfully we have April to get me through. So we're, we go back to the horrible horror stuff. And then April, I get a break again. And then I think the rest of the season, I'm kind of fucked.
And not in the fun way.
And not in the fun way. I'll watch a horror film, man, but I hate watching zombie movies. They scare the fuck out of me. So.
All right, folks. With that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.